Invincible has tons of villains. Some are absolutely brutal, some are okay, and some are just pathetic. So here are the 7 levels of invincible villains, starting from the absolute worst to the ones that will haunt you forever. Level 1, Trash Villains. Level 1 is the absolute bottom. This is the place where you're going to ask yourself, why is there even a villain in that episode? They often feel like they're just thrown in to fill screen time without any thought about actually making them threatening. Those are the villains that usually have the most basic abilities you could think of. The real problem isn't that they're boring. The thing is that they make their episodes so much worse. For example, there's a whole category of villains in Invincible that show up for one episode and then disappear forever. Take Biplane. This guy's a winged criminal who relies on a jetpack for bank robberies. His threat peaks with a plutonium-laced suit that could theoretically cause a suicidal detonation. Sounds dangerous, right? Wrong. In Season 1, Episode 1, the Immortal hurls him into space. His corpse later floats harmlessly during Invincible's Mars trip. The comic context mirrors this quick dispatch, emphasizing his absent-minded monologuing as a fatal flaw. He's purely gadget-based with no superhuman traits, but the other villains in the level are no better. Every single one of them is either the tech person, the mutant person, or the deranged scientist person, like Doc Seismic. This deranged seismologist uses earthquake wristbands, driven by anti-oppression rhetoric but disconnected and ego-driven. In Season 1, Episode 3, he attacks Mount Rushmore, generating shockwaves against Invincible and Adam Eve. But he malfunctions and nearly dooms himself. He's defeated and critiqued for his outdated views. The comics add no significant escalation to his threat level. His justification is clever, but he's physically frail. His plans cause temporary chaos, but fold under hero intervention, aligning him perfectly with weak threats. Listen, wristbands are a cool concept, but if they malfunction every time you use them, then what is the point of a power system? Okay, but seriously, these villains exist to show how strong the heroes are. Level 1 is the tutorial level. And here's the thing. Good villains are about many things, like clear motivations, real danger, consistency, cool powers, original abilities that you've never seen before, and so much more. The best villains combine all these things, but level 1 villains do not have any of these things. If you thought that was bad, things only get slightly better from here. Level 2, low tier henchmen. Level 2 is where things get a tiny bit better, and that's because they focus on the basics. We're starting to see villains with some actual powers and a couple of cool moments here and there, but they're still very far from perfect. They do their job, but in the end, they're still basic. Let's take Titan. Titan is a rock transforming enforcer for Machine Head, motivated by family protection. In Season 1, Episode 5, he overthrows Machine Head with Invincible's help, using superhuman strength and regeneration to regulate Chicago crime. The comics portray him as greedier, but the show makes him more sympathetic. His justification is minor impact as a henchman turned boss, limited by street-level operations despite his durability. He has real powers and actual motivations beyond just being evil, but he's not out here threatening the entire planet or anything close to that. The cool part is that there are a few different types of henchmen in this tier, like those with minor enhancements or shape-shifting abilities. Don't get me wrong, the abilities are not that crazy. I mean, most of these characters just have one specific power that helps them survive longer than level 1 villains. But we're definitely starting to see some complexity with actual character development or even limits where villains can only operate in specific situations. Everything looks more structured than level 1, but there's nothing mind-blowing happening yet. Level 2 villains also include Octoboss. This mutated Squidman hijacks facilities for resources. In Season 2, Episode 6, his amphibious strength overpowers Rexplode temporarily, but he's defeated by Rex's implant and Invincible. There's no major comic divergence here. The justification is brute force with limited scope, fitting the low-tier classification as minor muscle. These villains can actually put up a fight for a few minutes, which already makes them better than level 1. Another example is a Shapesmith. He's a Martian shapeshifter who impersonates astronaut Russ Livingston, causing the squid takeover of Mars. In Season 2, he aids the Guardians against the Lizard League, but withholds information. He survives being torn in half by an evil Invincible variant through regeneration. The comics maintain a supportive role, and his justification is his antagonistic selfishness limits impact. His powers suggest potential, but his naivety keeps them in the low tier category. These characters work as supervillains, helping move plots forward, but they can't carry a major threat on their own. Level 2 systems are simple, but at the end of the day, they're just the foundation. Add a couple of things, and you get Level 3. Level 3, mid-tier schemers. Level 3 is where things get creative. In Invincible, the schemers here leverage intellect for threats, creating proxies like Reanimin or Empires, but they falter in direct confrontations. They're the masterminds behind the scenes, pulling strings and building armies, but put them in a fistfight with Invincible, and they're cooked. Let's start with D.A. Sinclair. This genius is kidnapping students for Reanimin cyborg experiments. In Season 1, Episode 6, he defends his experiments as human upgrades, but Invincible defeats him. He's redeemed in Season 2 to build GDA Reanimin against Viltrumites. The comics echo his Frankenstein-like arc, and the justification is clever scheming through engineering, but no personal power justifies him staying in the mid-tier. He can create monsters that give heroes trouble, but Sinclair himself goes down the moment someone gets too close to him. That's the problem with these intellectual villains. They're they're dangerous until they're not. The same goes for Machine Head. He's a cyborg crime lord with a quantum upgrade for probabilities. In Season 1, Episode 5, he hires villains against Invincible, but is apprehended after betrayal. Later, he assassinates rivals to lead the Order. The comics are pretty similar to the show here, and the justification is strategic heavyweight in crime, but physically weak without hires. Machine Head can play elaborate schemes and hire powerful enforcers, but he's personally weak. Take away his resources and connections, and he's nothing. Machine Head represents the classic crime boss archetype done well. He's genuinely threatening because of his network and intelligence, not because he can throw a punch. That's interesting, but it also means he has a clear ceiling on how dangerous he can actually be. Level 3 also includes the Mauler twins. These cloning scientists have super strength and durability. In Season 1 through 2, they escape prison, build memory devices for Robot and Angstrom, and fight Invincible while surviving explosions through regeneration. The comics add weird distinctions between the twins, and the justification is that intellectual schemes amplify threats, but physical limits keep them in their mid-tier category. The Maulers are fascinating because they're both the brains and the brawn, but even with their strength, they're not on the level of true powerhouses like Viltrumites. What makes Level 3 interesting is the combination of intelligence and power, even if the power isn't earth-shattering. These villains force heroes to actually think instead of just punching harder. There are some consistent rules, and there's more depth than just a random bad guy using random abilities, but the rules aren't super strict, and that's fine for this tier. These villains are clever. They can build armies or create dangerous situations, but they're not going to beat Invincible in a straight fight. They need help, they need plans, they need other people to do the heavy lifting. That's what separates them from the next level. But add some raw power to that intelligence, and you get Level 4. Level 4, Strategic Heavyweights. Every villain in Level 4 is memorable for one reason or another. These villains represent a big leap in danger. They're usually really good in several ways, but great in one specific way. Let's take Angstrom Levy. This multiverse traveler's enhanced post-accident. In Season 2, he snaps Debbie's wrist, summons alternate Invincibles, and battles Invincible across dimensions. The comics expand his pacifist origins, and the justification is strategic portals cause significant damage, fitting the heavyweight category perfectly. Levy isn't just smart. He's smart with the ability to pull in threats from across the multiverse. That's terrifying because if you beat him once, he can just grab another version of you to fight you. There's a scene where Levy creates chaos by bringing in multiple alternate Invincibles who all have Viltrumite powers but different moral compasses. This isn't just a one-on-one fight anymore. This is Mark having to deal with evil versions of himself while also stopping Levy from causing more destruction. The strategy combined with dimensional powers makes Levy a genuine nightmare. Level 4 also has Robot. This drone-controlling intellect has villainous phases like betraying the Maulers. In Season 1 through 2, he leads Guardians but manipulates for personal gain. The comics eventually turn him dystopian. The justification here is planning causes team turmoil with significant impact, though he's physically weak in his original form. Robot is fascinating because he starts as a hero and slowly reveals how dangerous he actually is. His manipulation skills combined with his control over technology make him a heavyweight threat even though he's not personally strong. The scary part about Robot is that he's patient. He's willing to play the long game, earning trust and gathering resources until he's in a position where he can actually execute his plans. That makes him more dangerous than someone who just shows up and starts throwing punches. But the most visually striking villains in Level 4 are the alternate Invincibles. These are evil Mark variants from the multiverse with full Viltrumite powers. In Season 2's finale, Levy summons 18 to 27 variants for war, ravaging Earth over days. Their designs vary from corrupted to full masked versions. The comics feature them in the Invincible War storyline, and the justification is they mirror Invincible's power but turn evil, causing massive damage that fits this level perfectly. Seeing multiple Invincibles attack at once shows just how devastating even one Viltrumite can be when they're not holding back. Level 4 villains basically nail one piece of the puzzle, but they're still missing a little something. They are so close to greatness, and they show you glimpses of what could be absolute perfection, but they're held back by a couple of flaws. Sometimes it's that they're physically weak, sometimes it's that they need too much setup, sometimes it's that they can be outsmarted even though they're the smart ones. That is the difference between Level 4 and Level 5. Level 5, Elite Betrayers. Every single villain from now is legitimately dangerous. Level 5 villains are way deeper than just fighting mechanics. The focus here on betrayals is emotional stakes, often involving Viltrumite heritage or personal connections that make the conflicts hit harder. These aren't just random bad guys. These are villains who know the heroes personally and use that connection as a weapon. Thula is the perfect example. She's a Viltrumite enforcer with a bladed braid. In Season 2, Episode 4, she stabs Invincible, dominating with strength and regeneration. The comics debut her later, and the justification is personal ties through Empire loyalty combined with high power and betrayals. What makes Thula terrifying isn't just her power, it's that she's loyal to the Viltrum Empire and sees Mark as a traitor. She's not fighting some random enemy, she's fighting someone she considers a disgrace to their species. That personal element makes every hit feel more brutal because there's genuine hatred behind it. The bladed braid is creative, giving her a unique fighting style among Viltrumites, villains. But it's the emotional component that pushes her into level 5. She represents what Mark could have been if he followed Nolan's original path. Level 5 also has Anissa, the strongest female Viltrumite. She uses personal ties for persuasion. In Season 2, she defeats Kaiju and Invincible while attempting diplomacy. The comics add dark arcs involving assault, and the justification is elite betrayal through family-like coercion with high power that makes her extremely dangerous. Anissa is complex because she genuinely believes she's doing the right thing. She's trying to bring Mark back into the fold to make him understand the Viltrumite perspective, but her methods are violent and her persistence is relentless. She won't take no for an answer, and she has the power to back up her demands. What makes Anissa particularly dangerous is that she's trying to use Mark's own heritage against him. She's not just an enemy, she's someone who represents what the Viltrum Empire wants him to be. That psychological element combined with her physical dominance puts her firmly in level 5. The Coalition is another level 5 entry, specifically the non-Thrag members. This coalition of planets acts as anti-Viltrum betrayers, led by defector Thetis, who is himself a Viltrumite. They develop the Scourge virus and weapons like the Infinity Ray. Thetis betrays Empire roots to oppose tyranny. The comics expand on their war efforts significantly, and the justification is high-power betrayers with personal Empire ties, excluding their leader Thrag, who belongs in a higher tier. The Coalition represents organized resistance with real teeth. They're not just talking about fighting the Empire, they're actually doing it with weapons specifically designed to kill Viltrumites. Thetis is particularly important because he's proof that Viltrumites can reject their programming. He's living evidence that Nolan's eventual change of heart isn't possible, but his defection also makes him a traitor in the eyes of the Empire, which puts a target on his back that never goes away. Level 5 villains get to that sweet spot where everything clicks together. They all do something very unique while being extremely powerful in their own way. These are the villains that stick with you long after you finish the episode because they're personal. They're not just threats, they're betrayals, but there's still a couple of levels above this. Level 6, Viltrumite Enforcers. Everything from this point bangs. Level 6 is where creators stop playing by anyone else's rules. Level 6 is where we get to the true face of the Viltrum Empire. These are the Enforcers, the soldiers, the warriors who have built their entire existence around conquest and domination. They don't scheme, they don't manipulate, they just destroy. Let's start with Lucan. He's a low-ranking Viltrumite who overpowers foes. In Season 2, Episode 4, he pins Invincible and ambushes Omni-Man. The comics keep him similar, and the justification is Enforcer brutality that fits near top tier perfectly. Lucan demonstrates what even a weaker Viltrumite can do. He's not the strongest of his species, but he's still strong enough to give Invincible serious problems. The fight with Lucan shows that Mark isn't just dealing with one or two powerful enemies, he's dealing with an entire species of them. What makes Lucan scary is how casual his violence is. He's not angry or emotional, he's just doing his job as a Viltrumite Enforcer. That cold efficiency makes him more frightening than someone who's fighting out of passion. Level 6 also includes General Craig. He's second in command with a cybernetic eye. In Season 2, he threatens Earth and leads campaigns. The comics portray him as sympathetic but brutal, and the justification is strategic enforcement at a high level that makes him genuinely dangerous. Craig represents the Viltrum military machine. He's not just following orders, he's giving them. He's the kind of villain who plans invasions and executes them with ruthless efficiency. The cybernetic eye gives him an intimidating look, but it's his tactical mind combined with Viltrumite strength that makes him such a threat. But the most iconic villain in Level 6 is Omni-Man. He's a traitorous enforcer who massacres the Guardians in Season 1, Episode 1. He fights his son devastatingly and later tries to redeem himself. The comics delay his redemption, and the justification is he's a brutal fighter with personal ties that make his placement complicated. Omni-Man is the villain who sets the entire show in motion. That opening massacre of the Guardians is one of the most shocking moments in animation because it happens so fast and so brutally. These are the world's greatest heroes, and Nolan kills them like they're nothing. The fight between Omni-Man and Invincible is devastating, not just because of the physical damage, but because of the emotional weight. This is a father beating his son while trying to convince him to join the Empire. Every punch has years of lies and manipulation behind it. That's what pushes Omni-Man into Level 6 despite his eventual redemption. Level 6 villains are brutal Empire loyalists with near apex feats. They prove that power systems aren't just tools for fight. They're often one of the biggest reasons these scenes become as intense and memorable as they are. These are the warriors who make you understand why everyone fears the Viltrum Empire. But even they're not at the top. Level 7, Apex Predators. We are now at the absolute peak of invincible villains. Level 7 isn't just great, it's the standard that every other villain in the show tries to reach. First, we have Battle Beast. He's a warrior seeking worthy death matches. In Season 1, Episode 5, he defeats the Guardians. In Season 3, he tears a Viltrumite apart. The comics keep him consistent, and the justification is he's unmatched in sadistic strength that makes him an ultimate threat. Battle Beast is terrifying because he's not fighting for conquest or revenge or ideology. He just wants a good fight. He's looking for someone strong enough to give him a challenge, and if you're not strong enough, you're beneath his notice. If you are strong enough, he'll try to kill you just to see if he can. The scene where he fights the Guardians show how unmatched they are. These are powerful heroes working together, and Battle Beast handles them like they're training dummies. He's bored by the fight. That's how strong he is. What makes Battle Beast truly apex tier is that he operates on a completely different level than almost everyone else. Viltrumites are the strongest species in the universe, and Battle Beast can tear them apart. That puts him in a category that very few can reach. Level 7 also has Thrag. He's the strongest Viltrumite regent. Thrag represents the Empire at its absolute strongest. He's not just a warrior, he's the leader of all Viltrumites, and he earned that position through sheer strength and skill. Nobody challenges Thrag because nobody can beat him. He's the final boss of the Viltrum Empire. The scary part about Thrag is his competence. He's not arrogant or reckless. He's a calculating leader who understands strategy and tactics while also being the most physically powerful Viltrumite alive. That combination makes him nearly unstoppable. But the villain who might even be more brutal is Conquest. He's the second strongest sadistic veteran. In Season 3, he fights Invincible and easily toys with him, despite ultimately losing in the fight. The comics details his civilian slaughters, and the justification is he's an ultimate threat through sheer violence. Conquest is pure nightmare fuel. He doesn't just beat his opponents, he breaks them. He wants them to suffer. He wants them to understand how powerless they are before he finishes them off. That sadistic streak makes him different from other Viltrumites who kill efficiently. The fight between Conquest and Invincible in the comics is one of the most brutal battles in the entire series. It's not just a fight, it's a beating that goes on and on, with Conquest deliberately prolonging Mark's suffering just because he can. That level of cruelty combined with his strength makes him truly apex. If you enjoyed this video and want to see why Conquest versus Thrag isn't close, click the video on the screen.